My lady, it's me, Ilia. May I come in? My lady? If you're going to be like that, then still in bed, hmm? You know what your parents would say if they found out? The clocks have long since struck 10, and it is ill becoming of a princess to so laze about through this morning, even less so to be asleep at such an hour. Well, I reckon that they would say that it is better to wake early than to retire late. Hmm. You know that I'm not one to disagree with you on this, my lady, though your lowly handmaiden is also not she who might convince your parents. If I might be so bold as to inquire, just how late were you awake this morning? Hmm? You know, my lady, if you refrain from answering, I might have to assume the worst, born from a fear of embarrassment of revealing the truth for its clear and evident nature. So, how late was it that my charge did lay her head down to sleep? Hmm? 1 o'clock? Two? Three? Four? Maybe even five? As I said, your hesitation and bashfulness in responding does not portend a favorable answer, does it? Well, I suppose that explains why you are so tired and so reticent about getting out of bed, hmm? Though, for the record, I don't mind much, as it's none of my business when you should sleep and when you should do what else you do, so long as you are taking care of yourself. I merely serve at your and your family's pleasure and do as I might be commanded. You flatter me, my lady. I merely wish to justify my continued employment to your honor and provide as good of service as is deserved by your grace. Yet you are the princess, and so what flattery? In your terms, I give you is not but what you deserve. You know well that I have worked as maid for several noble ladies over the years, but mm, you're definitely my favorite of them. It is. I would not lie to you, princess. But may I ask a question? Wait. No, yes, yes, I suppose you're right. Then, without counting this permission request, may I ask a question? What inclines you so to prefer the late night into early morning hours that you should find things to do besides sleep, rather than as others do, take your sleep then and rise with the sun? Hmm, no. Huh. I don't have much preference, I don't think. By nature, my duties, I am accustomed to working early, so I might suppose that might be my preference at present. By fact that staying up late would be difficult for me, and I am quite tired by day's end. When I was younger and my duties allowed for it, I did sometimes adopt, at times, a sleeping habit, more like yours. But for me, there was nothing of it good nor ill. Merely that sometimes I did one and sometimes I did the other. Hmm. Perhaps that is why you ask now, for I've no real intuitive understanding of why one should prefer one to the other. Particularly to such extent that she should still be hiding her face from me. I mean it is no interrogation, my lady. I mean no offense, nor implication of the same. I am merely curious. You are an intriguing woman, my lady. You who has my curiosity. Of course! For one, you are the princess of this realm, and thus you have a power, a presence, a maturity in the way you carry yourself. You're kind and gentle and well versed in the manners of the court, yet far more observant and cunning than you let on. And as your handmaiden, I am oft afforded a more private side of you, away from the responsibilities of appearances in the court. An affordance for which I am quite grateful to see such a wonderful and wonderfully fascinating noble lady, the princess, no less, in such intimacy. But, my lady, your attendance is soon required, and it will take some time for me to ensure that you are sufficiently prepared. So please, princess, get out of bed so that we might get you dressed and otherwise taken care of. Good girl. Do you need anything before we start getting ready? Water? To relieve yourself? Anything. As you wish. Then let us begin with getting you dressed. All right, you know the deal. Change out of your nightgown and into your slip, and then I'll help you with your dress. So, which dress shall it be today? Either of your green ones or the blue which Olivia made? Uh, that that is also a very wonderful dress. And you know how beautiful I think it is on you. Yet you you are most welcome though. I can also assure you that that is not my opinion alone. That dress is in good repair, the small tear in the shoulder having been repaired some days ago, and could well be worn if you so wish it, my lady. Yet, your meetings this afternoon with Lady Heather Lavely is outdoors in the garden, and with the weather, I worry that the long sleeves of the dress should prove uncomfortably warm, even as light as the fabric might be. An excellent choice, my lady. I shall fetch that one from your wardrobe. Actually, if you hand me your nightgown, which you have left atop your dressing screen, I shall put that in its proper place as well. This one, was it? All right, then I'll set this here for the time being. Are there any modifications or alterations you would like to make to the layers under the dress, my lady? Very well. Then let us begin. If I may ask, what are your thoughts on Lady Heather Lavely and her aims? Nor are details is such discussion something to which I technically ought to be privy to as your mere handmaiden. I know little in way of specifics, I'm afraid. I know that you two have exchanged several letters in the last few months, and that she is here to converse with you in person, yet I know not what about. But given as she is a noblewoman, eldest daughter of Duke Laveley, as I recall, known as the most clever, foxish girl of the nobility, both in her kingdom and in ours. I feel like perhaps I ought to be concerned. You're not trying to conspire so that she might take your spot as princess so that you may continue to avoid your responsibilities, are you? She does have her own distinct claim to the throne, yet I wonder if such a conspiracy should count as treason, my lady, to act in deliberate disregard, nay, in counter regard for the established means of the kingdom against the will of the monarchs? Ah, but you are not yet queen, so it may do you well to. Well, how useful do you suppose that advice might be? Very well. Then what are you intending to discuss with her? Hmm. Whether you think it is interesting or not, I'm intrigued. You seem two interesting characters, each on your own. So, whatever you two might come together to do has my attention. And yet, you seem so determined not to tell me, my lady. Though, at this point, it's almost funnier if you don't. Hmm, so she's being secretive about this even with you? Perhaps indeed, I ought to be concerned. Indeed, I'll be there, though only because a certain princess is a bit clingy toward a certain personal mate of hers. Hmm? I suppose it's none of my business whom you might cling to. Yet, uh, have there not been some efforts amongst the upper nobility to find you a suitor? Well, regardless of what you might think of any of the names which have been considered, at some point the rumors will be likely to spread once people realize that I am the only person who has seen you in any state of undress in the last 7 years, which seems altogether a larger issue for you than for me. Though I don't reckon you particularly care right now. I see. Either way, though, how about we finish this and get this actual dress on you so I can fix your hair as well? How is it, my lady, that your hair is always in such disarray in the mornings? Do you do this on purpose? No, quite frankly. I reckon I'd be rather annoyed were you to make your hair this disheveled intentionally. If you were to do it expressly to extend our morning interactions, then I would say that you're definitely a bit clingy, and it would be very difficult for you to convince anyone otherwise. For the sake of preventing this conversation of ours roaming in circles, I shall choose to believe you. Who's to say? Either way, my lady, are you aware of your other responsibilities today? You might do well, perhaps, to keep better track of your appointments in your diary. 'Tis a most elegant book in its own right, which might appreciate some use anyway. Whose gift was it? Ah, yes. How could I have forgotten? How has your cousin been doing lately? I've not seen her much of late. Well, that's good at least. She's a lovely young lady, and I'm glad she's doing well. Will you pass along my regards next you see her? Thank you. But in the meantime, you have tutoring with Duke Megan in approximately half an hour, then a lunch meeting with your father and Baroness Ishel, and then your meeting with Lady Lavely at 3 p.m. As usual, dinner will be held at 7, so you mustn't go too long with her. I might presume that she would be invited, but I'm not sure myself. I might suggest asking the head maid or one of the kitchen staff, as they are likely to know, should you wish to avoid asking your parents, I suppose. That is wise, my lady. Yet I should caution you from going, as I was saying, too long with Lady Lavely, lest you wish to subject all of the other dinner attendants to that same conversation. And her attendance, I believe, is elsewhere required following dinner in such capacity that you may not accompany her. So it may be in your best interest to be at least reasonably brief in terms of today. And your attentive attendance should be valued by the Duke and by your father. So. Mhm. Precisely. Are you prepared for your tutoring? Very reasonable. Reading over your notes before you go would be perfect. Now let me finish up your hair. One moment. All right. Your hair has been persuaded into cooperation, so you should be ready, by my estimation. If you look in the mirror, is this to your satisfaction? It is my pleasure. Is there anything else you require from me before your tutoring? Very well. Then I shall leave you to your own devices so that you might do what preparations you need to do yourself. Just don't fall back asleep, princess, okay? Very good, my lady. Either Olivia or myself shall come shortly to escort you. In the meantime, take care.